as on tourism for those cities. Marky and Nick.
Yeah, such a tough sell for some communities, though, to use taxpayer dollars to help build those things.
The impact, the footprint in these cities for these teams is huge. Nancy, thank you.
Yeah, we still have so much more to get to right here on Morning in America, and it all starts right now.
New this morning, Israel Defense Forces going deeper into southern Gaza and announcing a new battle zone in its ground offensive. This comes as the United Nations appoints a Gaza humanitarian coordinator to help more aid get to Palestinians. And New York City braces for pro-Palestinian demonstrations during New Year's Eve celebrations with 1 million people all in one place. Plus, you know those annoying spam emails we all get? Well, one state is fighting back, and big time. What's being done to stop companies from selling your data and flooding your inbox with junk?
People can come here, they can have an entire wedding and a reception and have entertainment and have attractions.
Las Vegas, the wedding capital of the world, could set a record this weekend. Couples are flocking to Sin City for that special 123 123 wedding date.
I'm on tonight, you know my hips don't lie, and I'm starting to feel it's right.
And a larger-than-life honor for Colombia singer Shakira, where you can see her famous hips 21 feet tall and in bronze. It's Morning in America.
Welcome back, everybody. I know we're all slowly turning on our brains back after the Christmas holiday. Thanks for being with us from our News Nation headquarters right here in America's Heartland. It is time for News for All America.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. We're following several developing stories this morning. Despite calls for a ceasefire, Israeli forces have extended their strikes into refugee camps in central Gaza. We're live from Jerusalem with more on the concerns for civilian life and the latest efforts to de-escalate the intense fighting.
Plus, China and Russia are strengthening ties, leaving American officials concerned. And now lawmakers are urging defense officials to prepare for a possible Russia-China military alliance and what that might look like. Emily Finn has a closer look at the potential threats the pair poses to U.S. security.
And New York is just days away from Times Square's biggest event of the year. But the ball drop could be interrupted by another massive pro-Palestinian demonstration. Dre Clark is live in New York with more on what authorities are doing so revelers can ring in the new year safely. But first,
let's get to Israel and the IDF escalating its military campaign in Gaza once again, even as the United States pressures the Jewish state to wind down its offensive to protect all of those innocent civilians.
Absolutely. A top advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meeting Tuesday with White House officials to discuss de-escalating the fighting there. But meanwhile, Israel's military releasing this video showing troops entering refugee camps in the central Gaza Strip. Heavy bombing reported at several camps in the area, which Israel claims are harboring Hamas terrorists. Associated Press Jerusalem correspondent Isabel Debray joins us now with the latest from the ground. Isabel, good morning.
Good morning. We are hearing that the Israeli military has expanded its ground offensive into these urban refugee camps in central Gaza. Now, this was a place that had been spared the ground invasion for the whole war so far. And so as a result, there are tens of thousands of Palestinians that are packed into these very crowded camps. And some of them told us that last night was the most intense night of bombing since the war began for them. Shelling continued into today. And we are also hearing that Israeli tanks are on the ground and that clashes are raging in the streets with Hamas militants. We also heard from the Palestinian Health Ministry that's controlled by Hamas in the Gaza Strip that over 195 Palestinians have been recorded dead in the last 24 hours because of these strikes. And that brings the overall Palestinian death toll to over 21,000, just a really big number. And meanwhile, on the northern Israeli border with Lebanon, we're also tracking tensions there. Israeli forces were on high alert today after a series of Hezbollah strikes yesterday that wounded 9 Israeli soldiers and another rocket that actually hit a church in northern Israel. In response, Israel said it was retaliating. And today we heard that an Israeli strike struck a family home in southern Lebanon. It killed a Hezbollah fighter and 2 civilians who were living with him. And of course, all of this just raises wider concerns about a regional escalation. We heard from the Israeli military spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, yesterday that if Hezbollah continues its strikes, it could be dragging the entire region, he warned, into an unnecessary war. Nick?
Isabel, thank you so much. For more, let's bring in IDF spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner. Colonel Lerner, you and I have discussed the situation on the ground so many times before, and we do know that there's been much criticism about the attacks led by forces, particularly on refugee camps across central Gaza. How do you respond to those who say Gazans have run out of spaces left to go in the Strip?
Nick, we are in a war that Israel did not ask for, Israel was surprised for. And now we are conducting that war against a merciless terrorist organization that has chosen strategically to place all of its assets behind the people of Gaza. This is what we're facing. This is exactly the reason why we're asking people to evacuate specific areas where Hamas has placed its extensive network of tunnels, where it has located its rockets, where it is utilizing schools, hospitals. This is the type of enemy we are facing, Nick. It's not an easy task by any stretch of the imagination, and we are working in order to minimize the civilian anguish. But it is a war, nevertheless, and a war we are determined to win.
And Colonel Lerner, you know I ask these questions because there's so many images that we're seeing from the region that has raised the disappointment and anger of so many people here on the ground. But I noticed that today, even your team released information that 14 people have been arrested and 12 weapons confiscated from refugee camps. So you are finding evidence of terrorist groups in these refugee camps.
The amount of weaponry, the amount of arms, the amount of explosive devices that we are finding is really unbelievable. It's in bedrooms, in children rooms, in hospitals, in schools, weapons that have been pre-positioned so that terrorists can come out of a tunnel, use the weapon, lay the weapon down, and then go back into a tunnel and then pop out in a different house with weapons still waiting there again, and they continue to attack us from, I would say, 360 degrees. So yes, we are on the offensive. We are seeking out Hamas. We are determined to make sure that the massacre of October 7th can never happen again. This is our obligation to the people of Israel, all of the people of Israel. We're doing it in conjunction with our second goal of this war, to bring home the hostages. There are still 129 Israelis and foreign nationals that are being held by Hamas. And this is the reality that was forced upon us. You know, we aren't fighting a war against the people of Gaza. We're fighting a war against Hamas.
And Colonel Lerner, I have less than a minute, but you know I have a couple of more questions I just have to get in there. The Israeli and U.S. Air Forces shot down several Houthi attack drones over the Red Sea on Tuesday. The Yemen-based rebels said they were targeting the Israeli resort city of Eilat. What kind of threat do these one-way attack drones actually pose to the men and women on the ground?
So over the last 2 months, we've seen an increasing activity by the Houthis. Indeed, there is an extensive international presence now that understands that these terrorists have no good intentions, whether they're targeting Israel or targeting ships on international sailing routes. This is a terrorist organization that is being operated and manipulated and instructed by Iran, just like Hezbollah on our northern border, as Isabel was pointing out just previously. But yes, we are in I would say, primarily a defensive posture, but any threat that we see, we will take out. We will defend our borders, we'll defend our sovereignty, and make sure that these organizations can't have their way.
And Colonel Lerner, last question I have for you. Your IDF minister says that you are fighting a 7-point war. Is it fair to say that this is a full-scale conflict?
At this stage, we are on a defensive posture on both the northern front with Hezbollah that are challenging that every single day, rockets and anti-tank guided missiles that they're firing into Israel. And as you pointed out, the Houthis specifically, but we are focused primarily on in the major arena, which is Hamas, which is against Hamas, which is against this terrorist organization. But we are taking the necessary steps to be prepared for a further deterioration in the security situation. It's not something we want. We have recruited a huge amount of military forces on the ground in order to be prepared for that eventuality. And I would say less than half of our air force is engaged currently in the front with Hamas. And so there is enough forces to address a multi-war front, but we don't want to do that, but we need to be prepared for. I think there's a message here also that it needs to be sent to Lebanon. Lebanon, by letting Hezbollah have their way at attacking us from the north and increasing and escalating every single day, are jeopardizing the sanctity of Lebanon. It will be bad for everybody in the region if Hezbollah continues to escalate the situation. There is a chance that Hezbollah needs to be moved out of the south of Lebanon. Their weapons need to be dismantled from there. And security and stability needs to be resumed and restored to the people of southern Lebanon and the people of northern Israel. We have over 100,000 people that are out of their houses now for 2 months precisely because of this situation. So we are not looking for a multi-front war, but we need to be prepared for that. Yeah.
Colonel Lerner, prayers of safety to you, the other soldiers, and the hostages right now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, speaking of threats from overseas, new warnings of another possible conflict that could involve the United States. Chinese President Xi Jinping saying China's unification with Taiwan is, quote, inevitable. Xi making that announcement on Tuesday at an event celebrating the 130th birthday of the founder of Communist China, Mao Zedong. It is a significant time for the future of Taiwan because the island is holding a presidential election in just a few weeks from now. 2 of those 3 candidates are pushing for closer relations with Beijing. And meanwhile, a new military alliance appears to be brewing between Beijing and Moscow. Russia and China are strengthening their military ties. And while a formal partnership between the 2 world powers isn't in place just yet, experts are saying this should urge the United States to plan new military strategies just in case. Emily Finn is here with more. Emily.
Well, Marky, good morning to you. We know that for decades, the U.S. has been the military superpower of the world. But now the relationship between China and Russia has grown increasingly closer, posing concerns for peace on the world stage amid ongoing conflicts in Ukraine and Israel. Analysts say the friendly ties between Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and the brewing unofficial military alliance among the Russian and Chinese forces could be the biggest threat the U.S. has faced since the Cold War. China has been providing Russia with economic support since Putin invaded Ukraine and has been closely watching to see how that conflict plays out as a potential invasion of Taiwan looms. As you mentioned, Marky, Xi already calling that inevitable. Over the past 2 years, the country's militaries have participated in joint naval exercises, with Russia giving China submarine technology that could threaten the U.S. Navy's prominence. Putin announced in November Russia and China have also agreed to align on weapons development projects, further fueling their goal of becoming stronger than the American military. As a result, Congress has urged the Pentagon this year to prepare for war with China and Russia at the same time. Although the authoritarian leaders have not signed a formal military alliance just yet, retired U.S. Army Major General William Enyart says it's now clear the goal from Xi and Putin is to take down the U.S. military might.
Any alliance between Russia and China would, in all likelihood, be relatively short-term and would be a marriage of convenience. It's not that they have any great interests in common other than seeing the U.S. deposed as the world's only superpower.
Experts are now saying the U.S. needs to urgently step up its military capacity, especially in Europe, and strengthen our alliances to offset the threats this growing relationship between China and Russia poses. Nick, Marky?
Yeah, it's certainly clear the 2 states do see themselves as military partners, that's for sure. Emily, thank you. Let's follow up on this. For more, let's bring in retired Army Brigadier General Mark Kimmitt. General, a pleasure to have you on the show this morning. For starters, I just wanted to follow up on Emily's reporting that we just heard and looking toward the future as this bilateral relationship does seem to be strengthening with time. What kind of threat does a China-Russia alliance pose to the U.S. and also our allies?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think we've got to recognize that this is not a new relationship. This is just a relationship that has recovered. I'm old enough to remember the great worry about the Sino-Soviet pact that was going on. They were a threat prior to the Cold War and during the Cold War. And while they may be an immediate threat in their immediate territories around their periphery, say off the South China Sea in the case of China, and obviously in Ukraine for Russia, I don't necessarily believe they are a significant strategic threat to the United States as a pair, or a new Soviet-Sino pact.
Okay. So you're not worried about them toppling us as the world military power, at least anytime soon. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Clearly, they're both significant nuclear powers, but I think if we're talking about conventional military, it's inevitable that China will become larger and stronger than the United States. But we're protected by a very, very wide ocean. So I'm not sure that we necessarily have to worry about a direct attack on the United States. Now, China's influence in the region between Korea, Japan, the Philippines, Taiwan, Australia, that's a different story, but that's not an existential threat to the United States.
Okay. Yeah, we just had Greg Ip on last week from the Wall Street Journal talking about how China has been, far outpacing the United States when it comes to military might. So I was just curious your thoughts on that. Also, I'm also interested, what is each side getting out of this? What's in it for China to strengthen its ties to Putin and Russia, and also vice versa?
Yeah, I believe your last guest, General Enhart, was exactly right. This is merely a marriage of convenience. It's much like the relationship between Russia and Iran. They have diametrically opposed systems. They don't even like each other as people. They certainly don't share the same culture. So this is more of a relationship, sort of the old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. This is nothing more than a common hatred of the United States, so that causes them to work together.
One of my last questions for you, General, while I have you, just to end on solutions here, response here from the United States, what is the U.S. doing to counter this burgeoning alliance between two of our biggest rivals, and what should that response look like?
Well, in the case of Russia, that work has been subcontracted to Vladimir Zelensky. He is taking a bite out of the Russian military it will take a decade to recover on the part of the Russians. In the case of the Chinese, I think that we just have to diplomatically and in a political military basis meet the Chinese one for one in that particular region, strengthen our allies, maintain our alliances, and to the extent possible, use that as a containment strategy to keep China no further than the South China Sea.
Okay. Well, we will see where this alliance, this relationship heads from here. Retired Army Brigadier General Mark Kimmitt, thank you so much for your time, sir.
No, thank you.
Nick, over to you.
In just a few hours, the top U.S. leaders for foreign policy and homeland security are set to meet with the president of Mexico to talk about curbing illegal migration. This as a caravan of 6,000 to 8,000 migrants seeks its way through Mexico, headed toward the Texas border. The group left Tapachula, a city near Mexico's border with Guatemala, on Christmas Eve. It's a nearly 1,000-mile trip from there to Brownsville, Texas, where the nearest border crossing remains.
Many of these migrants that are making their way and paying the cartels to facilitate their travel do not have the large sums of money to pay the cartels in advance, which means when they make it into the United States, they continue to work off that debt. That increases human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, all of these illegal trades within the United States. It's essentially slave labor is what this turns into the United States. And we also see the cartels working with adversaries around the world to facilitate migrants from special interest locations into the country.
And all this comes after last fiscal year saw a record number of encounters along the southern U.S. border, and December is on pace to set a monthly record for migrant encounters.
Yeah, hoping some major change comes from that meeting today. Well, putting the power of privacy protection back in the hands of you and me, the people. All it takes are a few clicks on the keyboard. What is behind one state's Delete Act and how it could lead to a whole lot less junk?
And NASA launches a mission to intercept the God of Chaos. That's an asteroid as it begins to near Earth's orbit. What they've learned and when we can expect our close encounter to happen.
Sounds like it packs a punch.
Yes, it does.
With Nurtec ODT, I can treat a migraine when it strikes and prevent migraine attacks, all in one.
Don't take if allergic to Nurtec. Allergic reactions can occur, even days after using. Most common side effects were nausea, indigestion, and stomach pain.
Ask about Nurtec ODT.
With Gold Bond, you can age on your own terms. Retinol Overnight means the smoothing benefits of retinol are now for your whole body. Plus, fast-working crepe corrector diminishes wrinkled skin in just 2 days. Gold Bond, championing your skin.
I'm gonna sell my life insurance because I don't need it anymore.
My kids are grown, my wife is great, let's settle up the score.
It's time to travel to Paris.
Spend retirement happy.
Call 877-SELL-EASY, 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 and sell your policy. You can sell all or part, live your life, play it smart. 877-SELL-EASY and sell your policy.
If you've had a change in health or you're over 65 and paying for $100,000 or more in a life insurance policy you don't need, get paid for it instead.
Take the money that you get, gonna live it up, you bet. Call 877-SELL-EASY, 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 and sell your policy.
Diabetes can serve up a lot of questions, like what is your glucose and can you have more carbs? Before you decide, with the Freestyle Libre 2 system, know your glucose level and where it's headed, no finger sticks needed. Manage your diabetes with more confidence and lower your A1C. The #1 doctor-prescribed CGM, Freestyle Libre 2. Try it for free at freestylelibre.us.
At Grainger, we know the ones who get it done wear a lot of hats. A hard hat is one, problem solver is another. Whatever the job calls for, we're here for you. We're America's trusted source for industrial-grade products, with the scale and resources to deliver and the knowledge to help answer tough product questions. Because we know that hats change, but having access to real people ready to help, combined with fast delivery, never goes out of style. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you're watching this Gerber Life Guaranteed Life Insurance commercial, there's a good chance that you're alive. And if you're not, well, this may not be of interest to you. Now, I know what you're thinking. Life insurance? I'm going to live forever. Death is what happens to other people. Well, for the sake of argument, let's assume you're wrong and that someday you won't be watching TV anymore. I know it's not easy to talk about, so I'll do the talking. If you're 50 plus and alive, you can apply for Gerber Life Guaranteed Life Insurance with guaranteed acceptance, regardless of your health. And since this life insurance is guaranteed, you don't have to get a medical exam. In fact, you don't even have to fill out a health questionnaire. For a free quote, just call 800-600-8948. Then when you stop, if you stop watching TV, your family can use the insurance money to help cover your final expenses or anything else. For a free quote, call today, 800-600-8948. Your kids already inherited your ears, allergies, and questionable singing voice. Don't make them inherit your final expense tab too.
In just a matter of days, Californians will have more control over their online personal data. The new DELETE Act goes into effect January 1st and will give consumers a way to request all data brokers delete their personal information and force those same brokers to stop selling that information. Joining me now is the author of the bill and California State Senator Josh Becker. Mr. Becker, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We've all been frustrated by spam and all of the things that seem to follow us. We mention a sweater to you on a conversation, and the next thing you know, I get all these ads showing me different sweaters. One of the most convenient things, though, about this DELETE Act is you only have to make one request for hundreds of data brokers. How exactly will this work?
Yeah, well, as you say, we just passed the holiday shopping season. Happy holidays, by the way. And we need to understand that every time we go to a website or make an online purchase, we're offering up our personal information that is ultimately going to be bought by these data brokers. And these are unknown third parties that we do not have a relationship with, and they are accumulating thousands of pieces of information on each one of us. And right now, our options are pretty limited to regain control of our info. And that's my mission, to help you regain control of your personal information. Right now, you see cookies pop up and you can say, do not share, do not sell my information. And I know it's a little annoying, but that's really the only option you have. And the idea here is just to make it a lot easier for us to regain control. Create that one-stop shop, 30 seconds, put put in my information, and delete it from all data brokers. So the law goes in effect on on January 1. It's still going to take a little while for the privacy agency to get it all up and running. But that's the idea. One-stop shop. Let's make this easy for all of us to regain control over our personal data.
But Senator, California already has provisions in place for protecting people's personal information. What does this add to that? Another layer of security?
Well, California's led the way in having data brokers register, so we know who they are. So there's over 500. But right now, so that's a step forward. We actually know who they are. But right now, you'd have to go to 500 different websites and figure out how to delete your information from 500 different websites, which no one is going to do. So the idea here is to create a one-stop shop, very easy, one form, 30 seconds, fill your information, delete it from all data brokers.
Now, we'll tell you, this sounds a lot like that do not call list, which my mother will tell you does not actually work because she still gets these calls from telemarketers. How does this distinguish between the two? How does this Delete Act compare to maybe that do not call list?
Well, the do not call list, yes, it's frustrating. We still get calls. And where do people get our information? Well, oftentimes they're getting information from data brokers. And these are people who, the reputable folks might abide by the do not call list. But the disreputable folks who are somehow getting control may not abide by the do not call list. So I think my bill, this Delete Act, deleting our information from data brokers, will help all of us online with our online privacy, but also offline as well. Right now, I could go online, I could find every place you've ever lived, everyone you've ever lived with. I can likely find your cell phone number. And again, maybe I don't abide by the do not call list because I'm not a reputable person. I'm a scammer, I'm somebody else. So by allowing us to delete our information and regain control of our information, that should help online and offline as well.
It should indeed. Senator Becker, thank you so much. You know what they say, California first and
rest of the nation after.
There you go. Senator Becker, thank you so much. The countdown to 2024 is on, and New York City is beefing up security in and around Times Square. What the mayor says could disrupt the festivities and what's being done to protect revelers. For the first time in nearly 30 years, a third-party candidate could be on pace to pick up more than 15% of the presidential vote. Recent polling shows Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with 22% support. We'll talk to one of his supporters and find out why he is going third party next year. And hips don't lie, we love Colombianos, right? Especially in bronze, where singer Shakira is being honored with a larger-than-life statue and what she has to say about it.
Have you heard? Sling TV offers the news you love for less. Wait, you look and sound just like me. Actually, I am you. Because I'm the same news programs on Sling for less. You mean you're me, but for less money? A lot less. I'm all your favorite news programs and more on Sling, starting at just $40 a month. Everything great about me, but for less money, which makes me greater, don't you think? It's the same news for less, starting at $40 a month.
You're going to want to get the door because Jenny Craig is back and better than before. No more driving to the old Jenny Craig centers because the new Jenny Craig now has free nationwide delivery to your door. Plus, convenient online ordering to save you time and money.
My meals are prepped for me. I still get to pick and choose my favorite.
The original Jenny Craig recipes are back so you can enjoy delicious food every day while losing weight.
I lost 50 pounds. Woo!
Get breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks to kickstart healthy weight loss. Lose up to 24 pounds in just 8 weeks.
I feel amazing. I lost 35 pounds.
I've lost 30 pounds. As a mom, I take care of everybody else. Jenny takes care of me.
Losing weight with the new Jenny Craig has never been easier. Now with free nationwide delivery.
I've lost 50 pounds. I love being a part of the new Jenny.
Take advantage of our special offer. Get $40 off every shipment with promo code Jenny. Order now.
At Consumer Cellular, our customer service team is based here in America.
America?
America.
God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Beautiful.
This important message is for Marines and family members who spent 30 days on base at Camp Lejeune prior to 1988.
As a U.S. military veteran, I'm here to inform you that if you or someone you love has been diagnosed with cancer, Parkinson's, or other serious health issues after spending time at Camp Lejeune, you may qualify for financial compensation. Call now to determine your eligibility.
I called to see if I qualify. They helped me a lot.
Leaking chemical storage tanks at Camp Lejeune contaminated the drinking water with highly toxic chemicals. Marines and their family members have been diagnosed with multiple cancers and other serious health issues. But there is now a new law that gives victims the opportunity to receive financial compensation for their illnesses without going to court.
I finally got some answers. I'm glad I called.
You need to call now to see if you qualify. It costs you nothing if you don't win.
Call 800-817-9413. 800-817-9413.
Past the hour, everybody, and welcome back to Morning in America.
Yeah, here's what's in the mix. Renowned Australian chef Bill Granger, also known as the godfather of avocado toast, has died at 54 years old. A self-taught cook, Granger was celebrated as a global restaurateur and food writer. He published 14 books, produced multiple television cooking shows, and opened more than a dozen restaurants around the world. He passed away in London Christmas Day with his wife and 3 daughters by his side. The cause of his death has not been made public. And NASA has launched a mission to study the God of Chaos asteroid as it gets closer to Earth's orbit. A spacecraft has been sent to study the asteroid, which is about 370 yards wide. It's expected to have an extremely close flyby of Earth on April 13th, 2029, and may be visible in the Eastern Hemisphere. Now, NASA says the rock only comes this close to Earth every 7,500 years. And Shakira's hometown of in Colombia is honoring the Hips Don't Lie singer with a 21-foot bronze statue.
Look at that thing.
I love that. Wow. That is big. Yeah, it was unveiled during an intimate ceremony attended by the artist's parents. The Grammy winner thanked the sculptor and the students of the District Art School for their beautiful work, saying the town where she was born and raised serves as her never-ending source of inspiration.
How beautiful. It does her justice, too.
It does indeed. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
And if you're looking to tie the knot on a special date, it's not too late to head to Vegas. Couples looking to say I do there on New Year's Eve could set a new record. Here's how. That's because December 31st, 2023 has the repeating 1-2-3, 1-2-3 pattern. Some venues are calling it a double whammy thanks to the unusual New Year's Eve rush. To beat the record, Sin City needs 4,492 weddings. That's a whole lot of Elvises I do. So they need 4,492 people to get married on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Right? So they can have that 1-2-3, 1-2-3.
You could go. You could go.
I think I
have
need
your
a
moment.
booth first. You know, can you make all that happen in 4 days?
I can.
I need to move to Dallas.
Matchmaker, make me a match. Yes. Okay, switching gears here, everybody. You know, the countdown to 2024, it is underway. It is on. Just a matter of days, up to 1 million people will gather in New York's Times Square to watch that ball drop. But the Israel-Hamas war is creating some major security concerns there. New York Mayor Eric Adams says he's monitoring a possible pro-Palestinian protest disrupting those weekend celebrations. Adams saying that's not the only thing the NYPD is focusing on right now. Dre Clark is live in Times Square with the latest. Dre.
Marquis, good morning. Yeah, up to 1 million people are expected to be here in Times Square on Sunday to usher in the new year. We should mention right away there are no known specific or credible threats being made against Sunday's big event, but this area is considered to be by law enforcement an area that's really attractive to foreign terrorists as well as homegrown domestic violent extremists here. And that's why local, state, and federal law enforcement are on high alert, and they're working jointly to implement a security plan that will help keep everyone safe on Sunday. Earlier this month, an intelligence bulletin went out from the FBI and Homeland Security to law enforcement across the country. That bulletin expressing a serious concern about lone wolf attacks, targeting violence at high-profile public events like the New Year's Eve ball drop here in Times Square on Sunday. The FBI also saying that attackers could use large gatherings to commit violence against Jews, Muslims, and Christians. The FBI said since the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, various forms foreign terrorist groups have called for lone wolf attacks in the U.S. There's also concern that pro-Hamas and pro-Palestinian protesters could be planning to disrupt the New Year's Eve ball drop festivities on Sunday, which would put a major strain on the NYPD, which is already dealing with a severe shortage of police officers. Meanwhile, on Christmas Day, protesters and police officers clashed in Midtown Manhattan in a shoving match. No one was injured, but 6 people were arrested.
There's always a serious concern around safety in New Year's Eve because there's a large number of people. Everyone, look for events like this if they want to do bad things. And the police department is on top of it.
And the mayor says the police department is also monitoring social media and any online chatter for any potential threats. There was a lone wolf attack that happened last year on New Year's Eve when a man drove from Maine here to New York City and attacked 3 police officers with a machete. Those officers were standing at a checkpoint just a few blocks from here. Luckily, the officers made a full recovery, and that 21-year-old man who was charged with attempted murder and assault is scheduled to go on trial in March. Marquis?
It's certainly all hands on deck to keep everybody safe this celebratory weekend. Dre Clark, thanks.
And the trial clerk at the center of a jury tampering claim in the Alec Murdaugh case, now in the hot seat over plagiarism, whose work she admits to stealing for her memoir, and the reactions.
This is Captain Hadley, top-notch surgeon, currently deployed to AUAB, Qatar. I'd like to wish my wife, Jessica, and my daughter, Evie, a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Love you, baby. Thank you.
This holiday season, the frigid temperatures won't show any mercy on the animals who've been left outside in the cold. Animals who've been abandoned and neglected, who are freezing with no shelter. They're fighting to stay alive, and every moment they spend suffering could be one moment too late. We need your support more than ever this season. Thousands of lives are on the line, so please call this toll-free number, scan the code on your screen, or visit joinaspca.org with your $19 monthly gift now. It's only 63 cents a day to help rescue animals who are suffering. Many can't wait much longer, so please join in the next 10 minutes. And if you do, we'll send you this free welcome kit, including our member magazine, the photo of an animal who's been rescued, and this limited edition Animal Champion t-shirt. We need 3,000 new donors in the next 30 days so we can rescue more animals this winter. Please, find it in your heart this holiday season to help them. Go online, call, or scan now, and join our fight to rescue these innocent animals from cruelty.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright.
The animals who've been abandoned and neglected need our help, and they need it now. And because the situation is so urgent, we're asking you to join in the next 10 minutes. If you do, we'll send you this free welcome kit. You'll get our member magazine so you can read about the lives you're saving, the photo of a rescued animal, and this Animal Champion t-shirt. This limited edition item won't last, so act now to get yours today.
Sleep in heavenly peace.
It's the season of giving, and your monthly donation could be the greatest gift you give to help an animal who's suffering. Go online, call, or scan now.
This morning, pressure is growing on Harvard University's campus over recent controversies. Now, according to the New York Times, 2 members of the school's secretive corporation met with current and former faculty members last week, all to discuss the continued fallout from its response to Hamas's attack on Israel. The 2 members were told the Ivy League school needs to do more to address the division that is happening on campus. Harvard, of course, is facing other pressures as well, including plagiarism allegations against President Claudine Gay. A U.S. House committee already investigating anti-Semitism at the university says it will also look into those plagiarism claims. There have been calls for her ouster over her congressional testimony. A new twist in the ongoing legal saga surrounding disgraced South Carolina attorney Alec Murdaugh. A clerk in the trial who wrote a book, a memoir about her own experiences, is now confessing to plagiarizing parts of that memoir. And it's not the first time that that clerk has come under the microscope.
I was told by a very wise judge to treat it as if it were any other trial.
Colleton County Clerk of Court Becky Hill did not apparently treat the Murdaugh trial like any other. Hill was accused of jury tampering in September, telling jurors to watch Murdaugh closely, to look at his actions, and to not be fooled by the evidence his attorneys presented, all of which she denied in a sworn statement.
Becky Hill's credibility is completely shot.
Now, new allegations against Hill are mounting up. Sales of her book, Behind the Doors of Justice, The Murdaugh Murder, now suspended after the book's co-author uncovered the plagiarized passages.
Now she's dealing with a trifecta of a criminal investigation into jury tampering, ethics violations for misusing her position, and now potential civil liability if the BBC decides to go after her.
Hill confessed and issued an apology through her lawyers that read in part this. Becky Hill is deeply remorseful regarding an allegation of plagiarism that has recently surfaced. The pressures of developing additional content under tight time deadlines resulted in Miss Hill taking material written by BBC reporter Holly Hondrick and submitting it to her co-author Neil Gordon as if it were her own words. Hill's co-author, Neil Gordon, shocked by the admission. In a statement to News Nation, he wrote this: "This has blindsided me. Journalism has been my life's work. My credibility and integrity are paramount to everything I do. I can't be associated with anything like plagiarism and will no longer partner with Becky Hill on any projects." A new judge has taken over for Murdaugh's appeal and will be overseeing all court proceedings, including a possible retrial.
And if Becky Hill was truly talking to jurors about the case, that's textbook outside influence, and that demands a new trial.
Now, at this point, it is unclear what Alec Murdaugh's legal team plans to do with this new information, if anything. And of course, we reached out to his attorney, but haven't yet heard back. We'll keep you posted. Still ahead, everybody, with the new year just around the corner, millions of Americans, you're probably starting to think about those goals for yourself for 2024, those New Year's resolutions. We're about to meet one man who used one of his New Year's resolutions as a reason to get sober. How he overcame his addiction and is now helping others beat theirs in the process. Also, college football hit the gridiron on Tuesday, and we have got all the highlights from an action-packed day of bowl games.
Hello, Strike Nation. This is Colonel Dwight DiMaggio, Strike 6.
This is Commander Major Pena, Strike 7.
On behalf of all soldiers forward deployed here in Europe, from Germany, Poland, Bulgaria, and all across the continent, we want to say Happy Holidays and Happy New Year.
We know it's a sacrifice to be away from your friends and family. We appreciate the dedication and commitment to your soldiers.
Thank you all for what you do for our soldiers every single day. Happy Holidays.
Happy New Year. Strike hard!
News Nation is on the move with the largest week-to-week growth among all cable news networks. With the biggest audiences yet, News Nation, the fastest growing cable news network in the country. See why News Nation is news for all America.
Not flossing well? Then add the whoa of Listerine to your routine. New science shows Listerine is 5 times more effective than floss at reducing plaque above the gum line for a cleaner, healthier mouth. Listerine, feel the whoa.
This is Poof,
the most powerful pet odor eliminator in the world.
No harsh chemicals.
No harsh chemicals at all.
No fragrances.
None.
Seriously?
Oh. It's safe for people, pets, and the planet. What's this?
Oh.
That's pure ammonia. Just gotta poof it. Check this out.
Wow, I don't smell anything. Literally nothing.
That's because there's nothing to smell. Poof is a commercial-grade formula. A no-nonsense, no-fragrance odor eliminator. A formula used in the country's largest municipal waste companies to eliminate organic odors and make entire communities more livable. Yet, it meets the most stringent safety standards. Pet odor, poof it. Urine, poof. Feces, poof. Vomit, litter box smell, plus the odor on the pet. Wet dog, poof. Eye odor, poof. Ear odor, poof. Face odor, poof. Stinky skin folds. Any organic odor, poof. Even skunk odor. Ugh. One spray, and it goes away. Give it a smell.
Wow.
Generic sprays only cover up and reduce odor. I smell like poop and flowers now. Poof works instantly. It dismantles odor on a molecular level. It literally takes stink out of the equation.
Powerful enough to eliminate skunk odor and the stink in artificial turf and garbage cans. Yet safe enough to use on pet toys, their beds, even on them.
So why waste money on any product that doesn't totally eliminate the stink?
Call now and get a 32-ounce bottle of Poof for just $24.95 and get free shipping.
And I guarantee you'll never use anything else again.
Plus, get a free sample of Poof Laundry Odor Eliminator. Just one wash removes the toughest odors from your laundry and your washer.
Get Poof on Amazon, Poof.com, Chewy.com, and select Walmart stores. If it's not Poof, it stinks.
Meet Gold Bond Daily Healing, a powerhouse lotion that moisturizes, heals, and smooths dry skin with 7 moisturizers and 3 vitamins. And new Gold Bond Healing Sensitive, clinically shown to heal and moisturize dry, sensitive skin. Gold Bond.
In 2 weeks, CW Courtside Saturday returns with a can't-miss doubleheader.
Dropping the hammer. What a finish. Look out!
CW Courtside Saturday. It all tips off December 30th.
Important announcement regarding the dangerous herbicide Paraquat. If you or someone you love has developed Parkinson's disease or Parkinson's-like symptoms after being exposed to Paraquat, call Saddle Rock Legal Group now. You may be eligible for substantial financial compensation. The dangerous chemical Paraquat is used as a commercial and agricultural herbicide spray. Many users were exposed to this toxic chemical through airborne contact with skin and clothing. Paraquat is found in many popular weed killers like Gramoxone. It is highly toxic. The Environmental Protection Agency classifies it as restricted use only, and it is banned in many countries worldwide. So if you or a loved one developed Parkinson's disease after working or living on a farm that used herbicides containing the deadly chemical Paraquat, call Saddle Rock Legal Group today to see if you qualify for financial compensation. It only takes a few minutes and the call is completely free. Call to discuss your case now.
Call 1-800-875-7711. That's 1-800-875-7711.
A new study is shedding light on potential risk factors for young onset dementia, helping trigger cognitive decline as early as the age of 30. This particular study found that vitamin D deficiency, depression, and diabetes could put people at a higher risk of young onset conditions. That's in addition to conditions like high blood pressure, hearing loss. An estimated 4 million people worldwide between 30 and 64 are living with that disease.
Yeah, and at this point, nearly everyone knows the dangers associated with fentanyl and how prevalent the drug is across America.
Medical experts and drug counselors are urging people to arm themselves with the knowledge and the tools to fight back against the opioid epidemic. A former drug addict turned college graduate, William Perry, is the co-founder of This Must Be the Place, an outreach program educating people on the dangers of fentanyl by traveling to hundreds of festivals like Coachella, Lollapalooza, you name it, handing out free doses of Cloxado. That's a nasal spray that doctors say is a stronger form of Narcan. Medical experts want it to be as common as a bandage and in everybody's first aid kit.
In fact, joining us now is William Perry, who just goes by Perry, so you all don't get upset when I start calling him Perry, and Dr. David Dahomey, who has spent the last 20 years treating drug addiction and a fellow of the American Society of Addiction Medicine. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Perry, let's start with you. I wanted to make sure that we had you all on as guests today because addiction is something I think every American in some form can relate to. We all know someone who has battled the disease or has struggled with it. You say you made a New Year's resolution to become sober on January 1st, 2018. What happened in that moment, and what have you learned on your journey toward recovery?
You know, I think when I look back to making that decision in 2018, at the beginning, the New Year's Eve of 2017, I of course did. I used some drugs, and honestly, I woke up the next morning and it felt like what I had done the night before was less fun and had become more of a chore. More of just something that I did because I felt that I was supposed to. And, it was not fun. It was, and I woke up and I said, hey, this year, at least starting now, I'm going to make it my effort to not pick up anymore, to not make this be this defining part of my life. And, that was back in 2018. That took a whole lot of other hard work and a whole lot of support from other people along the way. But thankfully, nearly 6 years later, I'm still sober to this day.
Well, congratulations, sir. It's a lot of hard work day in and day out. That's a choice and takes a lot of bravery to talk about it here on air, too. Dr. Dahomey, I know that you've helped people overcome addiction for years at this point. What are some common factors and common denominators that you have found to successfully achieve sobriety? I know a lot of people heading into this New Year's weekend wondering, how do I navigate it? Do I go to the parties? Do I stay home? What should I do? What have you found to be helpful?
There's two things, basically. For people that have an active opioid use disorder or opioid addiction, by far and away, the most effective treatment is using medications for opioid use disorder. And these come in 3 FDA-approved forms like methadone, buprenorphine, and naltrexone. And these medications dramatically quell cravings in your brain and allow you the bandwidth to more reliably focus on the behavioral interventions that lead to long-term recovery. So that's for people that have opioid use disorder. Unfortunately, only 1 in 5 Americans is on one of these medications. And I don't know of any other life-threatening disease that we only put 1 of 5 people on the medication that has the highest probability of curing the disease. So that gives you the number one best chance. But also, people that don't have a drug addiction still use or try drugs. And what Perry and I want people to know is that essentially the entire illicit drug supply is now contaminated with fentanyl. Any single drug use, whether it's cocaine or methamphetamine or a pill someone gave you, could kill you. And that's why we want people to know that you need to carry something like this in your bag, in your backpack, because 40% of overdoses happen with a bystander present, and having a dose of naloxone or 2 on hand can make all the difference in the world. You can be a hero as opposed to a helpless bystander. And this is the message that we're trying to get out to all parents, to all kids, that there is no safe drug use. And this needs to be as ubiquitous as EpiPens and fire extinguishers. And this is a higher dose form of naloxone that specifically formulated to more readily and reliably reverse a fentanyl overdose.
Dr. Dahomey, I have less than a minute, and I've got to get this from you. So many people, as you know, will try drugs, and they won't all become addicts. But you talked about the dangers of fentanyl in this particular situation. Fentanyl is being added. Can you just stress once again how they don't necessarily know what they're taking, and they really do need to proceed with caution?
Yeah, the reason we have fentanyl throughout the drug supply now is it's so easy to make. It's made 24 hours a day in Mexico. Tiny amounts can be put into any drugs. It's undetectable. You can't smell it. You can't taste it. You can't see it. And the cartels are making counterfeit pills that look like pharmaceutical originals. So the only chance we have is raising awareness and carrying the antidote to this. And that's why Perry goes out and does what he does. And that's what I do at my office, put people on these medications that treat them, but also hand this stuff out to everybody.
Well, we couldn't thank you more for your work spreading the message here. And Perry, once again, our congratulations to you for all the work and that you're in a healthier place. Happy New Year's to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Well, a new drug is on the streets and police are sounding the alarm. Investigators in Colorado say it's 10 times more powerful than fentanyl and already linked to deaths. What we know about it and where it's coming from.
And as thousands cross into the United States daily, the rush to find a solution to mass illegal migration, it is on the table. We need to find a fix for it. Details on the top-level, high-stakes meeting happening today in Mexico.
The all-in-one and done symptom relief of Mucinex is delivered fast with DoorDash, so you don't have to leave the couch. Boom.
That was fast.
Mucinex, available on DoorDash. It's comeback season.
With Nurtec ODT, I can treat a migraine when it strikes and prevent migraine attacks, all in one.
Don't take if allergic to Nurtec. Allergic reactions can occur, even days after using. Most common side effects were nausea, indigestion, and stomach pain.
Ask about Nurtec ODT.
Stay tuned to get this knife set free from Granite Stone. Does cooking with your old pans feel like a kitchen battle? Scratches here, stuck on food there, and burnt on debris everywhere. You need to bring in battle-tested pans with armor. You need Granite Stone Armor Max, the revolutionary cookware set with 4 durable layers of ultra non-stick. So slick, virtually nothing sticks. No oil or butter needed. Granite Stone Armor Max is the fast, easy way to make your family 5-star gourmet meals that slide right out. Forged from durable aluminum with a hard anodized exterior, then coated with 1, 2, 3, 4 Armor Max layers to create our most durable, ultra non-stick Granite Stone pans ever. In fact, they're 800% longer lasting. They're oven rated up to 500 degrees and come with tempered glass, easy pour and strain lids. Plus, all Granite Stone cookware is 100% metal utensil and dishwasher safe. Look, you'd expect to pay up to $500 for a professional quality cookware set, and you still wouldn't get 4 layers. But during this special TV introduction, you can get the Granite Stone Armor Max set not for $500, $400, or even $300, but for just 5 easy payments of $39.99. And for everyone who orders today, we're going to drop 1 payment. You get it all for just 4 easy payments of $39.99. Plus, we'll include this razor-sharp 6-piece knife set free. But this deal keeps getting stronger. You'll get our Armor Max Deep Steam and Fry Pan set, yours absolutely free. That's an incredible 20-piece Granite Stone Armor Max set, all for just 4 easy payments of $39.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-453-1595 or order online at buyarmormax.com. So call 1-800-453-1595 or go to buyarmormax.com.
Diabetes can serve up a lot of questions, like what is your glucose and can you have more carbs? Before you decide, with the Freestyle Libre 2 system, know your glucose level and where it's headed, no finger sticks needed. Manage your diabetes with more confidence and lower your A1C. The #1 doctor-prescribed CGM, Freestyle Libre 2. Try it for free at freestylelibre.us.
Here's hoping we can all be home for the holidays. Not really. Celebrate like only the Jeep brand can. With everything you could ever wish for, including Jeep Grand Cherokee, the official vehicle of winter. Join the family that lets you go anywhere and do anything. Jeep, there's only one.
For a limited time during the Jeep Wrap Up the Year sales event, get 15% below MSRP, plus no monthly payments for 90 days on all 2023 Jeep Gladiator models. Don't miss this great offer.
Well, bowl season rolled on in college football Tuesday with 3 games from coast to coast.
Absolutely. Kansas City scored early and often in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, taking an 18-point lead into halftime. UNLV made it a game in the second half, but the Rebels were no match for the 6 touchdown passes thrown by Jason Bean. The Jayhawks win their first bowl game in 15 years, 49-36.
All right, Rock Chalk. Also, it was an all-Texas showdown in the First Responder Bowl. Brian Holloway made the most of his day, returning 2 interceptions for touchdowns. Texas State cooked Rice to run away with the win. Final score there was 45-21. Also, by the way, it's the first bowl game victory in Texas State's history. So a big congrats to the team and also the fans who were reveling in that.
And Bowling Green came out swinging in the Quick Lane Bowl, scoring on the game's first drive, but Minnesota managed to control the tempo from there, capitalizing on a 14-point third quarter to put the game out of reach. That's 7 bowl wins in a row for the Golden Gophers. They beat Bowling Green 30-24. 4 more bowl games are on the schedule for today, starting with Virginia Tech and Tulane in the Military Bowl this afternoon, and capping off with Texas Bowl in Houston.
A good day for Christmas leftovers, lots of good football.
And under a blanket.
And under a blanket.
There you go.
Yes, absolutely. Well, hey, still a lot of big headlines to get to right here on Morning in America. That next hour starts now. This morning, thousands of migrants making their way north to the U.S.-Mexico border as Secretary of State Blinken and Homeland Security